Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. All right, so for today's gathering and workshop, we're going to be walking through the process of the Ghusl al-Mayyit, the washing of the deceased Muslim. I'm going to try to make this as comprehensive as possible. I know we have some older members that have been through previous workshops on the same topic, as well as new members who may be new to this process. I'm going to give both a walkthrough on how to perform the Ghusl al-Mayyit and give some practical information involving how we perform the Ghusl here in the local community. So here in the local community in Louisville, when somebody passes away, what happens is the family of the deceased is going to call the groundskeeper of our Islamic cemetery, Amar Yafufi, will provide birth certificate, ID, information on where the person passed away. Amar is going to be in contact with either the hospital or the coroner's office, and I'll explain that detail here in a minute, in contact with the funeral home, and then arrange to have the qabr, the grave, dug. In our case, as those who are washing the deceased, we're going to get the body from one of two places. If the person passes away in a hospital, that person who's passed away, the hospital legally can determine time of death and cause of death. So if somebody passes away in the hospital, we receive the body directly from the hospital. However, if the person passes away in their house, maybe they were in their car, or a'udhu billah, they were murdered, the body, if the body passes away outside of a hospital, 9 times out of 10, that body is coming from the coroner's office. All right? So, as those who are washing the deceased, currently, we only have one funeral home that we utilize in our local community. That's Fern Creek Funeral Home, over there on the corner of Bardstown and Hurstbourne. As those who are washing, our responsibility is just to wash and to shroud. So when we come into Fern Creek Funeral Home, their washroom is on the basement level. We go down. The first thing that we do when we go down is you're always going to put on gloves and some sort of apron. You enter the washroom, and depending on where the body comes from. So if the body comes from a hospital, the body's always going to usually be in some sort of hospital gown that we have to remove. Or if the body comes from the coroner's office, it's just going to be draped with like a single white sheet. Like if you've ever watched Law and Order or CSI, they're dealing with the dead, it's just a single white sheet. The first step when you enter that washroom, once you're gloved up and gowned up, is you make sure that the aura, the privacy area, is covered. For a man, what's that area?
Private. Navel to the knee.
There we go. So, yeah, private, but in a fiqh sense, knees to navel. If you're removing that white gown before you remove, or the white sheet, so let's say he's released from the coroner's office, you're going to put a dark colored towel over the aura, and then while keeping that towel in place, you're going to kind of tug out that sheet. If the body comes from a hospital, once again, cover the aura, and you're going to kind of unbutton the gown and just delicately remove that. You keep that aura covered at all times. If you're the one in charge, either you take that responsibility at all times. We keep that area covered, or assign somebody to keep an eye on it. Now, at the washroom, it's better for you to pick a dark colored towel. Some of the white towels, they kind of turn transparent as they get wet. So you're gonna always cover and keep that covered with a dark towel. As it gets wet through the process, you'll replace that. You should be keeping that concealed at all times. Second step, so we've established the aura is covered, any white sheets or hospital gowns are removed. The next step is to check the legs, the hands, maybe around the neck, make sure there's no sort of tags. If he's coming from a hospital, usually a bracelet. Coming from the coroner's office, usually they tie some sort of string with a name tag at the end. They have scissors there, you just go, you remove those. You want to remove any sort of bracelet or tied off string. Keep in mind, if the bodies are released from the coroner's office, you may see places that are taped up. Those you do not remove. Let's say, for example, and this is a very rare instance, 90% of the time, somebody passes away either at home or the hospital. However, if the person passed away due to unknown circumstances, or what they call foul play, could be a murder, or it could be something they don't know what caused his death. Legally, and unfortunately as Muslims, we don't have an exception for this. Legally, they have to do an autopsy. That autopsy involves cutting open the body because they have to investigate cause of death. So they may have, places taped up or sewn up. In certain situations, they use some sort of like a clear cement to kind of put the body back together. Once again, this is a 1 to 2% type of situation. You don't disturb those. But any sort of bracelet, anything tied off, it's got a name tag, go ahead and remove those. Okay? So aura is covered. Anything is removed, like any sort of bracelet. The washroom has several towels, washcloths. First and foremost, for the ghusl portion, I think it's agreed upon by all the madahib, there's really two wajib portions, which is niyyah, and that water reaches all parts of the body. Now, in saying that, when you do the ghusl al-Mayyit, we should be going above and beyond. Let's implement as many of the sunnahs that we know. So one of the sunnahs when it comes to the ghusl, the full body bath, is that you wash the hands and the genitals. When you're washing the aura, you always keep that towel covering it. So you'll have one person kind of holds it in place, one person hands wrapped up with a washcloth, and you should be using soap for this portion. You go underneath and you wash. So hands, genitals, and then you can do the small wudu and leave the feet off. Now once again, with the small wudu, once again, a go above and beyond. Not just the wajib, but also the mustahab. You do that small wudu, and then you start the same kind of ghusl for like Salat-ul-Janazah. For the married men, you know about Salat-ul-Janazah. You start head, the hair, head, and you're moving right side down, starting from the head down, and then left side, head, and move down. If you chose to leave the feet from the small wudu, you then complete the feet. That's also from the prophetic sunnah, and I can share some of the hadiths in the group chat. But you're doing the hands, washing the genitals, small wudu, and then the full body wash. Now, Once again, it's not like you're washing somebody who's alive. When you're doing that full body wash, one technique, whether you're working with a group or just with a few individuals, because once again, water should be reaching all parts of the body, not just the front. So if you need to get to the back of the legs and so on, what you can do is, let's say you want to wash this side, you're going to cross that right leg over the left, right arm over the left, and then lean him towards you, and then have the volunteer who's doing the washing, back of the legs on down, and then left side, it's the same technique, lean them towards you, and then get the back of the legs. Okay? Any questions so far? You good? Okay. So, after the washing, one thing that I want to make clear is, as you're doing that full body wash, once you get towards like the torso, the abdomen, one thing that you should keep in mind is to press down on the stomach. Now, 9 times out of 10, nothing happens, but the reality is the body may have something that has not passed. Najasa. Okay? If you have multiple people with you to help you, have somebody lean the body and kind of press down, just to ensure that any najasa that needs to pass, that's still being retained by the body, is passing. 9 times out of 10, nothing comes out, but once again, it's about going above and beyond. Another thing, if the body is released from the coroner's office and there was an autopsy done, take a minute to analyze and see, are there any stitches? Are there any wounds that have been closed up? If so, most likely there's going to be some sort of like dried blood, some sort of najasa that may have dried on the body. If that's the case, before you start the Ghusl-Janazah, the small wudu, do one wash just to remove those impurities. It's not technically part of the ritual itself, but it's just to make sure that there is no dried blood. There's nothing that can transfer onto the kafan, the shroud, which is going to be the next step that I'll get to. Soap, water, do one wash where your focus is, I need to remove any najasa. If the body's released from the hospital, typically, there's no, wounds that have been sealed up. But if the body was released by the coroner's office, there may have been an autopsy done, in which case, most likely there's going to be some sort of najasa that has dried on the body, and you want to do your due diligence to remove that najasa. If you do that first washing on a body that's been autopsied, one tip that I give is notice as you're washing, notice if there's any discoloration of the water. If the water's red, orange, then definitely there's some sort of najasa that you're getting off. And you want to make sure that you're washing thoroughly to ensure that there is no najasa that has dried on the body. If the body has been stitched up or any wounds have been sewn up, you do not want to wash with force. You don't want to wash with friction. There's 2 things that are kind of like, for me, or red lines if I'm leading a ghusl. Number 1, I want to at least make sure that the wajib is complete. Because keep in mind, the al-Mayyit is considered a fard kifaya, a communal obligation. It's not an obligation on the dead person, it's an obligation on us as a community. So long as somebody is correctly fulfilling that fard kifaya, the responsibility is lifted off the community. But if somebody is A, not even fulfilling the obligation, and B, doing it correctly, then it's something that we can be asked about by Allah on Yawm al-Qiyamah. So that's my first red line. Let's at least make sure the wajib is complete. Number 2, mishandling the body. And this isn't from a fiqhi or shari perspective, but from a practical perspective. The body is deceived. If you're rough with the skin, if you're rough moving the body, you could be tearing up skin, you could be breaking bones, which practically speaking makes it difficult on us. Some people, they may get a little zealous. Oh, I gotta scrub. Akhi, he's dead. You need to be careful not to open up wounds that could bleed, break bones. So handle the body respectfully, delicately, especially if the body has been sewn up, because it's been sewn up for a reason, to keep wounds closed and not to open them up. So if you see any sort of parts that have been sewn, just kind of pad it and don't apply friction. Is that clear? Okay. So we've completed the ghusl and the wudu. Typically what we do, so the body is laying on a metal basin that's kind of tilted, and it's got like a drain hole for the water to, so he's not sitting in standing water, the water flows out. We dry both the body and the basin. The reason is we typically shroud the body on the basin and then move him onto a stretcher. Can I get one volunteer? Has anybody done any Ghusl al-Mayyit? You have? So we're going to show kind of the process of shrouding. Let me grab this. Can anybody tell me how many shrouds are given to the male? Sorry, I'm getting old. 30, there you go. What I want you to do is lay this kind of flat, like next to my foot. Alright, so for the keffins, 3 in total for a male. For the demonstration, I'm not worrying about it, but you're always going to put the biggest keffin on the outside. And then the 2 smaller ones kind of on top of that third. So while keeping the just washed body on that metal basin, you lay out these 3 keffins, and a technique that we do that makes it really easy for us to shroud is laying out the 3 keffins, one on top of the other. What you typically do is you'll kind of grab that in, and you're going to kind of roll it to the middle. So you kind of roll it up like a scroll. If you've ever seen like an ancient scroll. what you'll do is that same technique to lean the body. You'll lean the body to one side, and then you're going to place the scroll kind of underneath him. Very good, all the way underneath. Okay, unscroll, unroll that side. Very good. I know this is a crude demonstration. It's a lot more efficient. So basically, there you go. On the metal basin itself, you will unroll the 3-layer of kefan underneath the body. So we don't have to lift him up off the basin to do this. You can easily do it on the basin itself. So for the kefan, so Ahmed, you're going to bring the top layer, don't cover his face, but just kind of bring it over his body. Yeah, all right. I don't know, that is all right. Oh, this is all right. Yeah. So you're going to do the first layer, right side, and then left. The hands, if you can get the arms to be limber enough, you can kind of fold them as if he's in prayer. The reason I was talking about treating the body delicately is depending on how long the body has been dead, rigor mortis sets in. So the limbs, they feel like rock. I've had to stop somebody in the past because they try to force it. Don't force it. If you can massage the joints to loosen them enough, bismillah. If not, don't stress about it. Especially don't force it, because once again, you could be breaking something. To the best of your ability, if you can fold the hands, fold the hands. That first layer, right side, left side. At this point, once again, that aura is covered. The first layer has been kind of folded over him. At that point, you can kind of go underneath while keeping it concealed, tug that towel out, and then second layer right side, left side, third layer right side, then left side. In terms of where you tie, so he's been fully shrouded. I'm not going to do any more on the demonstration. He's been fully shrouded. Tie at the feet, past the feet. Tie at least around the torso. Now, if this individual is a bigger individual, you can tie around the shoulders. And then you tie past the head. Now, let me preface and say, 9 times out of 10, the family wants to at least see the person one last time. So we don't actually tie past the head, but we at least cut a strip so that they can do that after the family has visited them. Okay, so at least past the feet, torso, if it's a taller or bigger individual, shoulders, and then past the head. There are some, they want to follow the sunnah of applying, what is it called right now? Camphor. Thank you. A camphor, or is it also mitted, right? You can apply at the joints, whether before shrouding or upon the kefan is fine. But at that point, the person has been fully washed, has been fully shrouded. The funeral home handles the body after that point to both deliver the body to either the masjid or directly to the cemetery. They do the Salat-ul-Janazah and then the burial. Are there any questions?
The excess kafan, does it just kind of you just let it sit there, or you wrap it all around?
You want to tuck and wrap as tightly as possible. Obviously, for the demonstration, I don't want to make them uncomfortable, but you will wrap it tightly, tuck it in. The ties that you place when you place the body into the qabr, into the grave, the ties are let go.
They're still there, just
Undone. Yeah,
Okay.
correct.
When you're doing the ghusl, for like when doing that, you're supposed to get all the way to the scalp. Do we have to do that with the deceased as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Once again, you want to go above and beyond. Don't cut corners. The reason why my personal red line is to at least cover the wajib is as you get more experience, as you do this with more and more families, you may have elders that are going to try to interject and, oh, we're going to do it my way. Even if maybe respectfully that elder does not know the correct way, I'm at least going to make sure the wajib is complete. Because once again, I want to make sure that the fard kifaya is fulfilled. I know for younger individuals, they feel a little shy, kind of pushing back. I'm a little dour, so I push back. But at least make sure that the wajib is complete. But if they defer to you, go above and beyond. Don't cut corners. Don't just do the wajib and leave out the mustahab. No. Everything, do it to the best of your ability. So for the head, you want to make sure that gets to the scalp. In doing so, once again, don't like get in there with your nails. No, but you do want to do that. Yep.
When you're doing the ghusl part, so you did wudu, or you washed, you did wudu. As you're coming down from head to toe on the right side, the left side, is it enough to just get that towel that's covering the outer wet from the outside, or you want to go under the towel?
So let's say, because you're always going to have at least two people, have one person kind of hold the towel in place, like make sure it doesn't uncover. One person goes underneath with the washcloth and actually rubs.
Touch the skin.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's not enough to just pour water over. You want to physically.
Well, here's the other thing to keep in mind. Don't just like blatantly like pour water under it, because part of covering the aura is the shape. It's not just the sight of it.
Right.
So if that towel starts to drench, you replace it with a dry towel. That's going to at least conceal the shape as well. So when washing the aura, yes, one person kind of holds it in place, one person goes underneath and washes properly. Very good question. Any other questions?
One quick question about the coffin itself. Who would provide that? The funeral home, the family, or?
No, it's the community. So the cemetery board, we try to keep Fern Creek stocked, but in addition to that, we keep Keflin here at 6 Mile and then at 4th Street Elmore. But as a volunteer, don't worry about, do they have coffins? We keep it stocked.
Let me just add one thing. One of the things which is like is a huge tahrim in this matter, like you're not allowed to do, is say when you're washing the body and you see something that is unnatural or something that's odd, something that a normal person would not have, right? Is haram, to discuss that matter outside that. What you see there stays there. You leave it, or you decide, you forget about it. This could be something like even a tattoo, for example. The Muslim brother who had a tattoo, you don't mention it. You just keep those information to yourself.
Any other questions? Or? Go ahead.
Just to have an idea of what would you, from your experience on average, the time frame, like from the body being released, what to expect, how long it would take, to get to the funeral home, the process of washing, and then from there on.
No, that's a good question. Obviously, we know from the sunnah you want to bury as quickly as possible. So in terms of arranging, receiving the body, the washroom at Fern Creek, getting the public dug, we try to keep that within like 24 hours to the best of our ability. Now, in terms of specifically as us as volunteers for the Ghusl al-Mayyit, I would say maybe an hour. In some cases less than that, honestly. It depends on how many people show up and sort of, are people following the lead of the person in charge? I would say 45 minutes to an hour. So, a very good question. Is there anything else that I'm missing on what? My encouragement to everyone is to at least offer to volunteer. I know people have different work schedules, life schedules. Presently, with the situation where we only have Fern Creek Funeral Home as kind of our designated wash area, the Ghusl al-Mayyits are usually going to be around 10 to 11 in the morning. So I know for some people, hey, I work 9 to 5s on the weekdays, but I would still encourage you to volunteer in case we have to do one on the weekend. The more people that are proactive, that they know they have that opening and take it, then it allows for those who have been consistent to kind of take breaks here and there. Also keep in mind, if you are completely new to this, we're not just going to throw you in there and like, oh, you're in charge. Hey, you went to our workshop. No. This is educational because I know for people when they're dealing with new concepts, they want as much clarity as possible. Like, I want to know what I'm getting myself into. Okay, this accomplishes that. It gives you clarity. Now, when you actually go for your first couple of times, you're going to be following the lead of somebody else. You're not just going to be, oh, Todd, you're in charge. Oh, Yasmin, you're in charge. No. You're going to be following the lead of somebody in charge. If you're doing a ghusl with me, maybe after the third one, then I'm going to sit in the back of the room. I want you to go step by step. Now, I'll interject if I need to correct something, but I want to kind of set your train on the rails to where you can kind of go by yourself eventually after a couple of times. But once again, don't be shy. Don't think like, oh, tomorrow I'm just going to be thrown in with a bunch of random people and I got to leave them. No. You will be following somebody in charge for a couple of times, and then we're going to work to get you to where you're comfortable and confident to